Shea Butter. And at Awali, we are all about natural well-being and just, just positive vibes around you being a whole human being. So whereas we are a platform that deals with shea butter, we are, of course, as well, very focused on your general well-being. And this is why, of course, today we have a special guest and we're going to be discussing about sweat, what we like to call Sweatuationship.
Yes.
Right?
Sweatuationship, yes.
I mean, I don't know about you, but let me just throw in a bit of background around this topic. So, about 5% of the world population suffers from excessive sweat, which I think in scientific term is hyperhidrosis, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, whereas, it may not affect you, but you may know someone who has suffered from this or someone who faces this as a concern. And this is why today we are hosting a very special guest. You can see him, but I will let him introduce himself. But he is from Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya. And so over to you, introduce yourself and, just tell us a little bit about Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya. What is it that you're doing? And then we can go into the other questions that we have prepared for our followers today. So
thank you very much, Emily. It's a pleasure to be part of this wonderful live. My name is Martin Kimamo. I'm the founder of Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
I'm the founder of Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya. Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya was founded in 2018. We started off as an initiative and we started receiving people living with hyperhidrosis and other sweat-related issues. As you're going to learn today that there's more to sweat than hyperhidrosis. There's a lot about sweat. And we were receiving, or rather being consulted on matters of sweat from different people, not just Kenyans, but Africans from other African states. So this prompted the transition from an initiative to a non-profit company whose main purpose is to raise awareness, educate, and also provide solutions, because we believe awareness without solutions is just awareness. So you just have to educate and provide solutions. And I mean, I think 4 years later, we are still here. Issues of sweat, they're not new in Kenya and in the entire African continent. It's just that it's not talked about. When you think about sweat, you think maybe this person has hygiene issues or other reasons that you may have in mind. But issues about sweat is not really talked about, especially here in Kenya, because of the perspective, or rather the view of it being an issue. It's just sweat. You can just go and shower or wipe it out, but they don't understand the impact that it has on the person who, suffers from excessive sweating or other sweat-related issues. So we focus on sweat, hyperhidrosis, and the rest, and we're going to learn today.
All right, yeah, and it's quite interesting that you say sometimes people see it as a non-issue, and I think maybe because it's a very sensitive topic. So, I mean, even if you knew someone, say perhaps who has a struggle with sweat, how do you even approach them to even tell them, are you aware of ABCD that can maybe provide solution to the excessive sweating? So it's a very sensitive topic, and I'm looking forward to learning from you, and especially what solutions are out there and where, people, especially like those who are in Kenya, can find them, and also those who are not in Kenya, how can they also contact you? So maybe you can start by giving us a bit of detail on what is hyperhidrosis. What is actually excessive sweating?
Well, in simpler language, or rather in a layman's language explanation, hyperhidrosis is simply excessive sweating. Hyper means it's something that is excessive. Hydrosis, it's more of water, so something that hyperactive condition. But in medical terms, hyperhidrosis is defined as excessive sweating, central nervous system, and sympathetic nervous system disorder. Medically, again, it's defined as described as individuals who sweat more than what's necessary to properly cool and maintain the body temperature. The human body, as we all know, has about 2 to 4 million sweat glands. And the body, and they are all spread in different areas of the body. So it's not just on one locality, they are spread in different areas. The whole process of sweat is partly controlled by the sympathetic nervous system. So those who have hyperhidrosis, which is excessive sweating, they are particularly sensitive to the SNS, the sympathetic nervous system. This is why you find people with hyperhidrosis sweating in odd hours when they are not supposed to sweat. Like for instance, in this cold month, you know, in Nairobi it's cold as hell, but you'll find yourself sweating, and those areas, they even feel numb. You feel like those areas are dead, and the areas are the focal areas, which I'm going to touch on. So a normal acclimated person, now for instance, such as yourself, you sweat about 4 liters of sweat in an hour. So someone with excessive sweating sweats more than the normal acclimated person. That's why, as you said, it's a sensitive issue. You cannot just approach someone and tell them that why you sweat, because even the approach itself tends to send different signals to the person you're approaching. Again, it depends on how you approach this person. If you're too direct and too lashing insults and all that, they may not really open up and even talk to you. So yeah, with hyperhidrosis, how can I define hyperhidrosis now in general way for people to understand is it's a side effect. It's not a side effect to a medication or an underlying medical condition. It's the medical condition itself. So it usually starts at early childhood. It affects people from the age of 0 to 89 years, meaning either it gets it reduces or gets worse with age. Some other criteria that we normally use when it comes to excessive sweating, besides it's often begins at early childhood, we also look at the genetic component of it. So 2 to 3% account for genetic hyperhidrosis. If you look at the family history, most of the people who have consulted HAK, whenever we carry out sweat diagnosis, courtesy of SDU, which is the sweat diagnosis unit, there's a set of questions we always ask, and one of the questions is, apart from you, is there anyone in the family with excessive sweating? And what we found out is there are those who they have siblings and they also have parents. In a whole entire family, others it's even a whole entire family, they all sweat, but the sweat manifests in different focal areas. It's bilateral, the sweat itself, meaning it's bilateral and relatively symmetric, meaning you're sweating on both sides of the body, not just one. You cannot just sweat on one. If someone in corner, you're not just sweating on one palm, you're sweating on both hands, both armpits, feet, face, chest, back, the groin, and the bum area, and sometimes even between the thighs. So the sweat always targets different areas, and there are people who tend to sweat to more than 3 focal areas. So it has no cure. If we're talking about primary focal hyperhidrosis, it has no cure or a permanent solution, but it can be managed through treatments. And the treatments that we're going to talk about and explain and go deep, the treatments will include topical treatments, which is level 1 treatment. Other people describe it as entry-level treatment, but I look at it as level 1 treatment. Then you have medical treatments, which will include oral prescription medication. There is antiperspirant machine treatment. Back to medical, we also have Botox injection, the same Botox that ladies use for anti-aging, where someone is 70 years, but they look 25.
I know people are doing Botox, so it's not just for
The same Botox injection, because botulinum toxin is the same toxin they also inject on your armpits. It's supposed to be injected on the armpits, not the hands. On the hands, it's too painful. The way it's designed is to be injected on the armpits, and it's very expensive. But we'll touch on it later. So that's the criteria that we have, and we also have symptoms of excessive sweating. If I can just run them through with you, the symptoms will include bilateral and relatively symmetrical, just what I've explained. You sweat in both sides of the body. It occurs earlier before age of 25. Excessive sweating that occurs for at least 6 months without apparent reason. Sweat episodes at least once a week. The sweat interferes with your daily activities such as work and relationships, family history, what we have touched on, and you don't sweat in your sleep. When you sweat, night sweats, that's another different type of sweat, which I'm going to touch on, which is the next one. So up to there, I think, do you have now an understanding of primary focal hyperhidrosis? These are two categories. There are two categories of sweat. There is primary and secondary. What I've touched on is primary focal hyperhidrosis, meaning it has no cure or permanent solution. It's not a side effect from medication or an underlying medical condition. It typically starts at early childhood. It affects the following, but not limited to, focal areas. Number one, we have cranofacial hyperhidrosis. This is the excessive sweating of the scalp and the face. You have palmar hyperhidrosis, which is the excessive sweating of your hands. You have axillar hyperhidrosis, excessive sweating of the armpits. Plantar hyperhidrosis, excessive sweating of the feet. Then you have hex cells hyperhidrosis. This is the excessive sweating that occurs in inguinal areas. These are areas which are very sensitive and people are too embarrassed to talk about. So this will include the groin area, the thighs, and the bum, the buttocks. And then there's also sweat on the chest and on the back. So up to there, I think we have an understanding of primary focal hyperhidrosis.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe let me just say hi to our followers who are joining and just let them know what are we actually talking about. So for who is joining us right now, we are talking about excessive sweating, which is hyperhidrosis, and of course later on we are going to look at what are the solutions that are available, so that if you know someone, or maybe it's you who has this as a condition, then you know how can I get help. And of course we have Martin here. He's the founder of Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya, and he is, giving us all this amazing knowledge around this area. So thank you for joining us on this live. And if you know someone who is having this as a concern, you can also share this live with them so that they're able to join us. So, Martin, so the other question that I had, Martin, so just maybe to recap, so there are two types of excessive sweating. There is the primary and the secondary.
Yes.
So then it's important for you to understand what type of hyperhidrosis you have. I didn't even know this.
It's important to know which category. They actually recently found out that there is a third one through a doctor friend of mine in Sweden. The third one, it's known as primary generalized. So we have covered primary focal, and before I move to secondary generalized, I want to make it. I want to let our viewers know that I myself, I do suffer from hyperhidrosis. I was born with primary focal hyperhidrosis. That's why I advocate for excessive sweating. It's very passionate and close to me because during my time I didn't receive any help, and I don't blame my parents. I don't blame my siblings and the uh, the experiences that I went through, bullying and all those other stuff. I don't blame my parents for not knowing, because even myself, I didn't know it was hyperhidrosis. I didn't even know it was a medical condition. The only way I knew of it as a medical condition, it was through a TV show. Do you remember the Tyra Banks show?
Oh yeah. Yes.
That's how. Yes,
Yeah.
that's how I knew of it. I knew of it as a medical condition that actually has a name, hyperhidrosis. Way before I didn't know, and like I said, I don't blame my parents. They didn't know better, and for the longest time, up before 2018, I always believed I was the only Kenyan with excessive sweating. Even when I started doing my research, whenever I would Google, I will only see uh, faces of people who didn't look like me. So I'll only tend to see a lot of white people. And that can throw you off because you now have this notion of maybe this disease is just for white people. So for myself, I think maybe I have other things that are causing this sweat. So yes, I have primary focal hyperhidrosis. And this is why I try as much as possible to help the hyperhidrosis family and anyone who has sweat related issues and to bring all those treatments here in Kenya, which we're going to talk about. So, on to the next category of sweat. Now, this one is known as secondary generalized hyperhidrosis. It can also be termed as SGH. So, secondary generalized hyperhidrosis is the complete opposite of primary. It's a side effect to a medication and an underlying medical condition. So there is a whole list of medical conditions that we're going to look at. The excessive sweating itself generally starts at, or rather in adulthood. So this is past the age of 25 going forward. The sweating occurs when you sleep. Remember, PFH, primary, you don't sweat when you sleep. But this one, you experience night sweats. And the night sweat occurs in larger areas of the body. Sweating and weight loss. Prolonged and unexplained sweating. And the sweating that occurs with a fever, chest pain, shortness of breath, and rapid heartbeat. Right? So let us look at the conditions that causes secondary generalized hyperhidrosis. We have the four main that everybody knows: cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure. Uh, we have spinal cord injuries, kidney issues, lung diseases, bacterial, viral, and fungal infections can also cause hormonal imbalance, stroke, hypothyroidism, the thyroid gland that is located around your neck. When it's overactive, it leads to excessive sweating. But the sweat is secondary, meaning it's not primary, it's secondary. There's something causing it. There is Parkinson's disease, HPV, Fraser syndrome, diabetes, menopause. Women, when mefika that age, hot flashes leads to excessive sweating, gout, a variety of tumors, and some form of lumps, boils, and apocrine gland sweat bearing areas may lead to secondary sweating. And there is a list of over 400 prescription medication that could lead to excessive sweating. Over 400. I saw that list and it blew my mind.
Yeah, it's a long one.
It's a long one. And the medication, there's some very weird medication. I can't even mention the name, but there's over a list of 400 prescription medication. So uh, why is it important for people to understand the two types of hyperhidrosis? That way, proper diagnosis will enable you to receive the proper treatment. Misdiagnosis is one of the major issues that we have in this country because not so many doctors are conversant with excessive sweating. They don't know. You'll go there and ask a doctor, or rather consult a doctor for treatment, and they don't know how to help you because they don't understand excessive sweating. They have no knowledge of it. In fact, most of them, they will approach it as secondary. They will think you have malaria or you have cholera. Have you ever seen someone who suffers from cholera? They sweat a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they may think that you have typhoid. So they tend to approach it from a secondary point of view. the the areas where they fail is that they don't do, or rather they don't carry out proper diagnosis. It's important to carry out sweat diagnosis. This way you're able to ascertain, is this person suffering from primary, focal, or secondary generalized? So it's important to know the two types, and the way to do it, consult a dermatologist who can run proper test and ask you a set of questions the same way as HAK we do. We'll ask you, we have over 15 questions in audio format. This is why we send it to people, and then they're able to listen to it and they provide an answer. And amongst the audio files, we have files which are meant to educate you on the two types of hyperhidrosis, just to give you a head start of the type of source that you may suspect to be suffering from. So it's imperative to know the two. If you don't, you might end up being given treatment and medication for a sweat that you don't have. I'll give you an example, a quick one. Last year, we had about 5 people who reached out to HAK. And most of the time when they reach out, it's me they talk to. And we did the same, the sweat diagnosis, which we went through a set of questions, Q&A. And one thing I found out is they wanted medication or the topical treatments. But I insisted on them consulting a dermatologist for some medical tests, because through the line of questioning, I suspected that their sweat is more secondary than it is primary. And out of the 5, they all, when they did the medical test and the results were in, one of them happened to have hormonal imbalance. And this was a young lady between the age of 20, I think she was 24 at the time, turning 25. We had a gentleman who had, the results showed that he was pre-diabetic. Another one had thyroid gland issues. And you see, they wanted treatment. But through the Q&A, my gut just told me, these guys, just based on the questions that I'm getting, the answers, I think their sweat is more secondary than it is primary. But I always encourage that they should go for medical treatments just to ascertain, are we dealing with primary or are we dealing with secondary generalized hyperhidrosis? On primary generalized, this means sweat that occurs in different areas of the body. It may give the illusion of maybe this person has secondary generalized hyperhidrosis, but I know it only happens on few individuals. I'm still, researching on it, because I haven't come across Kenyans who exhibit the symptoms of primary generalized, but I think they are still there. So it's something that I'm still researching on and connecting with different doctors just to understand, because at the end of the day, I always want to give information that is credible. Yes.
All right. I think I have a few follow-up questions.
Okay.
And for me, like the most important one is on diagnosis. So if I, if I find that I am sweating, like all of a sudden, say I have this secondary generalized hyperhidrosis, and so all of a sudden I start having excessive sweating based on what you have described as this particular one. What is my first place that I should go to? Where should I go? Like basically, if I am having this excessive sweating and it's something that is bothering me, what is the first place, or where is the first place that I should go to seek assistance? Is it to Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya? Where? Maybe like for people who are joining, they may wonder, okay, maybe this is my issue, but where do I go?
Well, if you suspect that you have issues of excessive sweating, definitely if you reach out to Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya, what we do, currently we are operating online. We are still in the process of setting up. So normally I do the Q&As online. And then if the line of questioning is leading to primary focal, HAK provides topical treatments. Topical treatments, these are clinical prescription strength antiperspirants and deodorants. These are not the regular ones. These are different brands and they are tailored for people with excessive sweating. So the regular brands, for instance, the likes of Nivea and Rexona and the rest, those are regular. Those are not designed for people with excessive sweating or hyperhidrosis. Those are designed for regular and for mass consumption. And the active ingredient percentage is relatively low so that it can be used by everyone. But for hyperhidrosis, people with excessive sweating, the active ingredient percentage, it's a bit higher. So effectiveness in managing excessive sweating. So we provide topical treatment for the following areas: for cranofacial, face and scalp; for your hands, palmar, hyperhidrosis; for armpits, axilla. Now for axilla armpits, it's interesting. We provide for PM and AM, meaning we are giving you a product to apply at night and a product to apply in the morning during the day. That adds a layer of effectiveness. We also provide topical treatments for your feet and topical treatments for Hexel's hyperhidrosis, the excessive sweating of the groin area and the bum. For clinical now medical treatments, we have about 3 dermatologists that we always recommend people to go to. Currently, I'm working with Dr. Hashim. He's a dermatologist and a consultant at MPSHA. He's a he's a great doctor. He has really helped a lot of people with excessive sweating. I connected with him last year, and I've been recommending people to him. I've even learned a lot from him in terms of sweat diagnosis. And I'll even ask you that question down the line on how do you apply an antiperspirant, and you'll find out you've been doing it all wrong. You're totally that down the line. I'll break it down for you. So Dr. Hashim, I work with him most of the time. There's also Dr. Owero, who's based at Upper Hill Medical Center. Dr. Owero is there. Another one, I've worked also with Dr. Kamuri, the CEO of Kenyatta. He's also a dermatologist. He's a well-known skin doctor. But currently, Dr. Hashim, since we connected, I've been recommending people to him for medical tests now. And the story the story I was giving you about the 5 people who we actually found out that their sweat was secondary. I recommended them to consult Dr. Hashim, and he gave conclusive medical results, and we're able to find out that that some of them their sweat was primary, others their sweat was secondary, and we started working together in that journey. You see, here at HAK, we don't just give you products and then we forget about you. We work with you. And what we have found out that there are those who have found out there are those who have managed to identify a unique brand that works for them. And ever since, their lives have changed. And they're not the same people they were before. I'm telling you, issues of sweat in this country is equal. Watu ni wengi. There's so many people with excessive sweating and other sweat-related issues, which we are going to look at. But now, where do they get treatment? Where do they receive help? So apart from giving you the topical medication and recommending you to go consult Dr. Hashim or any other dermatologist who we believe, we'll not just throw you to anyone. No, we have to work with a doctor who has managed hyperhidrosis cases before and currently still doing so. Apart from that, we believe, there is mental health and hyperhidrosis. There are issues surrounding, people living with hyperhidrosis. There's that psychological trauma. There's no physical death. No one has ever died of physical death, but there is that slow death characterized by social, psychological trauma. These people go through so much. It's an everyday struggle. Imagine you can use your phone with ease. You can operate your smartphone. But imagine someone who sweats excessively on the hands. How are they able to manage? How do they even maneuver through their phone? Driving and there's a whole list of so many things. So
Okay.
yeah.
Just to summarize, in terms of getting assistance, so if I am sweating, I can contact you.
Yes.
And there is, if it's just like, natural or primary hyperhidrosis, you're able to offer treatments. And then if it's the secondary one, you refer to a specialist. This is okay for someone maybe who is on Instagram or is able to access you online. How about someone like in the village, someone who has no access to internet, and maybe today there's someone who is joining who knows such a person? What kind of advice can you tell them on the first place where they should go to seek help? Because, for example, at Awali, we normally, people contact us with skincare problems or whatever it is, we refer them also to some clinical dermatologists that we work with. But we are also very much aware that not everyone can access these people, also because there's consultation fees that are involved, etc. So we normally recommend that, where you are, there's a district or a local government hospital. Find out where they have a clinic for dermatologists, and then, go there as your first point. It also may be cheaper for you and easily accessible. So for the case of excessive sweating, what can you tell this person, say, who is like in the village, they don't have access to the internet, they don't have possibility of knowing about hyperhidrosis, but there's someone today who is joining and can give them a message of what to do when they discover that this is a condition that is they're dealing with.
The challenge that I've been facing with those who don't have access to the internet or content related to excessive sweating, if we recommend that they consult a doctor in their around their district or around the village, the problem is the doctor or the dermatologist. Do they understand excessive sweating? That's the challenge that we are facing, because misdiagnosis, this is something that we've come to terms. We can never escape misdiagnosis. So the first thing amongst our plans that we have, we want to first work with the medical practitioners. Awareness should start with them. That way they'll be able to help the people who are in those areas or in those regions. But also, in the same line of the conversation, I've been contacted by someone who lives in Marsabit, and they got access to information about HAK online. I even asked, how did you manage to do it? And she's a mother. She's a mother of three, and told me, my daughter, when they pay us a visit, the daughter was the one who introduced HAK to the mother. So it's important that if there's anyone who's watching and you're getting access to this information, when you go home, take it as an opportunity to also raise awareness. Because if I was to recommend someone to consult a certain doctor, number one, do they have knowledge of excessive sweating? For instance, someone shows up there with FOS, fish odor syndrome, or they show up there with jock itch, bromhidrosis or chromehidrosis. You see, hyperhidrosis is one component. There are all these other different types of sweat. Would they be able to provide proper diagnosis? So it becomes a challenge. This is why we are pushing more on the awareness. And then now awareness has to be followed with solutions. It's a tough call. It's a tough question. But so far, what I can clearly tell you, Emily, so many people, even those who are living up country in very remote areas, have gotten in touch with HAK. And the first thing they say is, I got your number from the Facebook page, meaning people have access to Facebook. So if they have access and they're getting and they're consuming our content, the same people, they always go back and help those in the village or in their community. That way, the awareness is growing and spreading. But I hope and pray that with time, I can get in contact with some of the village doctors or dermatologists,
Yeah.
and awareness has to start with them and then down to community level. But they can always get in touch with me. Can always get in touch with me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that point that awareness to the ones who are providing the medical assistance. Yeah,
Yes.
I think this is a nice place to start with, because if you can reach those people, then your outreach even increases in terms of the support that is given. You talked about something, fish odor syndrome, and now I'll go to my next question. In addition to or besides the hyperhidrosis, what other sweat conditions are there? What other types of sweat exist?
Well, no two people sweat exactly the same. So we have hyperhidrosis, which is the excessive sweating. Um, Another thing just to note before we jump to the other sweat, human beings have there are two types of sweat glands that we all have. So we have the eccrine and apocrine. Eccrine glands, they provide the sweat that comes from the eccrine, it's odorless and it's pure water. It's actually watery and odorless. But the sweat that comes from the apocrine tends to produce that smell and that odor. And the apocrine glands are predominantly around areas where their skin falls. So the armpits, around the groin area, and they tend to, uh, what's the word? Apocrine gland, when the sweat comes in contact with bacteria, it tends to produce that odor. No. And the sweat is usually in areas where there is warmth and moist. So the armpits, groin area, and the feet. So there is hyperhidrosis, and then there is bromhidrosis. It's a chronic condition in which excessive odor, usually an unpleasant and a very unpleasant one, emanates through the skin. Bromhidrosis. There is hypohidrosis. Hypohidrosis, these are individuals who sweat less than normal, very less than normal. And then now you have the complete opposite of hyperhidrosis, anhidrosis. These are individuals who don't sweat. Completely, they don't sweat.
Is there something like
Yes, anhidrosis. They don't sweat. And now it's very dangerous because such individuals cannot live in hot, humid areas.
Yeah.
No? And they have to hydrate more often, and to also moisturize their whole entire body, not just one area, the whole entire body. They are prone to heat strokes. For instance, the current weather right now in Texas, and I think the around West America, Wako, the the temperatures went as high as 102 degrees. So imagine someone who has anhidrosis. How will they survive in such environments? People are dying of heat strokes, right? And it's because if you have anhidrosis, you should really get in touch with HAK if you have anhidrosis. We want to help you. Apart from that, we have pseudochrome hydrosis. This is sweat that happens or rather occurs when the sweat comes in contact with a chemical substance or a chemical compound. Then you have chrome hydrosis. It's a disorder of the sweat glands that manifests with colored sweat on the face, in the underarms, or under the breast. The darker circles of the skin around the areola area. The sweat may manifest in different colors: yellow, green, red, black, and brown. Chrome hydrosis. So apart from you asked about FOS, fish odor syndrome. Now, FOS, fish body odor syndrome, these are individuals who smell like rotten, dead fish. Rotten fish. It's there. It's a condition that is there. And there are people who struggle with it. All these sweats have a genetic component, including FOS. So not all people sweat exactly the same. So if there are people who tend to think that we only focus on one component, which is hyperhidrosis. We have all this other sweat. And people, since 2019, we have helped people with bromhidrosis, I'm yet to come across someone with FOS. I haven't. Chrome hydrosis, I've only met one individual, but they are there. There are so many people with sweat-related issues. Number one is that they don't know. They don't know that what they have is a medical condition that has a name and that it can be managed, that there are actually solutions for it. So it's imperative that, like I said, awareness, push on the awareness and also provide solutions. So I think up to there, you have an understanding now that not two people sweat exactly the same.
Yes, and I will ask about I think it was hypohidrosis, the one where you don't sweat, right?
Anhydrosis. Anhydrosis is where you don't sweat. Yeah. You don't sweat.
Now, how do I know? Because I mean, assuming that how do I know that I have this, that I'm not sweating? How to differentiate this and normal sweating? Because I mean, how do you know that you don't sweat?
For instance, as a normal acclimated person, such as yourself, when the temperatures are hot, you sweat. Very true, you do sweat. And you sweat in localized areas, such as the face. If it is the armpits, maybe a small patch will form. Now, people who don't sweat, whether the weather is hot and humid, you won't find a trace of sweat on their body. If they work out, they don't sweat. When they engaging in a certain job, maybe they are working on something, doing house chores or hard labor, maybe they have a farm or wameenda kulima or such stuff, they don't sweat. But normal people, if sahi nikupatie jembe nikuambie ndo lime shamba, you will sweat. People who have anhydrosis, they don't sweat. Completely, they don't. I know of one, and we used to attend the same gym. And this individual saw me on TV, on live TV, doing an interview. And they got in contact with me and they told me, you know, I'm the complete opposite of you. I don't sweat. This person will hit the gym for 1 full hour. And they will leave the gym, they will exit the gym without even a drop of sweat on their face or any other part of their body. So it's easy to tell someone who doesn't sweat because they even know themselves. They know that whenever they engage on anything, they can sweat.
Yeah, what I find is important is that for you to know that this is not normal and that this is actually a sweat-related condition, right? Because I mean, someone may just assume that, okay, I don't sweat this, I don't have to use deodorant so often, I don't have to maybe, I don't know. But I think it's just good that you're aware that if you are not sweating, again, also this is a sweat-related condition and you need to see a specialist for this, yeah? So maybe we can move to the next part of our discussion. I don't see any, I'm trying to also look at the comments in parallel, but I don't see any questions so far from our followers. I hope that it's not too technical and that they are getting the most out of the discussion.
I'm trying not to use medical terms and other things. I'm trying to be as simple as possible to, to help people have that understanding. So if they have any questions, I'm ready to answer.
I don't see any of the comments. So let me just wave to everyone who has joined. Hi guys, thank you for joining us, and we are discussing about excessive sweating, which is hyperhidrosis, and very shortly we will look at the treatments that are available. So today we have Martin. He is the founder of Hydrosis Awareness Kenya, and he's actually my first guest, my first male guest on this live that we do here at Awali. And I hope that you can also share this live so that anyone who is interested or has hyperhidrosis as a concern for them, they can also learn with us today. So yeah, I'm trying to see if there is any comments. So I guess we can proceed now to look at treatments that are available. I know you did mention a few as you are explaining on the types, but maybe now take us through the treatments that are available for each of these category of sweats so that the viewers are aware. How can I get help?
So we look at the categories of treatments as well.
Yes.
In terms of what we have available in the country and what's not available. So the available treatments, we have the traditional forms of treatments, which is the use of antiperspirants. But when doctors talk of antiperspirants, people tend to think of the regular ones that they can get in the supermarket and the local stores. Those are regular antiperspirants, and they may not provide the satisfactory results that you're looking for. You need to go for clinical prescription strength antiperspirants. In Kenya, up until I think the start of this year, there was a brand by the name Dryclar. The original manufacturer stopped producing Dryclar for the Kenyan market because of excessive counterfeits. So the Dryclar that you're going to find, and I'm sorry to say this, the Dryclar you're going to find in your chemist, your pharmacy, or whichever other place, chances are you're not using the original brand, the original product. The original Dryclar, it's around 4,500. And if I import it for you, you can tell the difference between the imported one and the one you're using. So for treatments, for HAK, we provide what we call topical treatments, the clinical, prescription strength, antiperspirant, lotions, and gels. So if you're going to look at the categories, the different areas, let us start with cranofacial hyperhidrosis, which is the excessive sweating of the face and scalp. We have a brand by the name Knit 3B Face Saver Gel. We buy this topical treatment from New Zealand, and it has been the most requested brand ever since we brought it here in Kenya. The gel itself, when you apply, especially for the ladies, if you use this gel, you can also apply makeup. So it will not prevent you from slaying. You can slay all you want and be sure that the sweat will not interfere with your makeup and all this other stuff. The most,
that's very important. Yeah,
the most,
it's very important. People who don't cannot use makeup because, it doesn't sit in well due to excessive sweating.
And the product has been well received and has performed well. In fact, the people who are using it who reside in areas where the environment and the weather is a bit hot. For instance, I have a contact who lives in Garissa. He tends to go between Garissa and Isiolo, those areas, and he's an avid user of Knit 3B. I have about 3 ladies in Mombasa. There was one in Kisumu, and here in Nairobi we have plenty who are using it, and they're always requesting. So we have Knit 3B Face Saver for the face. When we availed the product last year, we actually bought 2. There was Knit 3B and Cape. Cape is a lotion for the face. It's also clinical, and Knit 3B is a gel. The lotion side, people complained of whitish marks on the face. So I had to go back and research which other brand can I avail for the hyperhidrosis family that it's comfortable to use and doesn't leave any form of whitish marks. And so I went through the reviews and what people are saying about Knit 3B. I wrote an email to the organization and I introduced myself and I asked a lot of questions about their brand. And so when I bought it in the country and it was well received, I knew that now finally this is a go-to product for people with cranofacial. It produces excellent results. And let me make this clear. Topical treatments do not provide a cure or a permanent solution, but they will help you manage your sweat. I mean, there is a difference between the person who's not using and the person that is using. I tell people, appreciate the 70, 80, 90% than 0%. It's better to appreciate the results that you're receiving. And the more you use, the more the body reacts to the treatment that it's receiving. But so far, this brand has been performing excellently. And, kudos to the brand makers. Then now we have polymer hyperhidrosis. Now we have clinical antiperspirant lotions that you can apply on your hands. The brands that we have brought so far, we have Sweat Block and we have Carpe and Zero Sweat. Those are the three main that I started with. And then there's another brand I saw, it's called Blitz, which I also introduced last year and this year. But normally for Blitz, I tend to do a lot of pre-orders. So if someone has identified it as a go-to brand for them, or they know, they're aware that this is the brand that I want to use, or I want to try, because another thing with these brands you try, people tend to ask, what would you recommend? I can only recommend based on the sweat. There is also a rating in the criteria for sweat. Is your sweat mild, excessive, or extreme? So that will give me an idea. And there's mixed reactions based on the products for the hands. There are those who, for the first time, they were dry for 24 hours on their palms, they didn't sweat. And there are those who, for the first time, they were dry for like 12 to 13 hours. And they were happy because they told me for the first time, I used to sweat from morning to evening, but now my hands, I can only sweat from maybe in the afternoon from 2 to around 4, or from 2 to around 2:30, 3:30. So my sweating patterns are changing. So the moment we identify that, we try other mechanisms such as coping mechanisms. Uh, if you're going to use this lotion, maybe you can also try a clinical wipe. We also have clinical wipes, which it's easy to carry around, so that in case you don't when you apply a lotion and then you visit the washroom, you have to clean your hands again, meaning you have to reapply. So sometimes I tell them you can also have the wipes. That way, if you visit the washroom or if you tend to wash your hands, you can use the clinical wipes. For the armpits, we have an array of brands that we have tried, but so far we have settled on Satin Dry. Satin Dry, they have a prescription strength roll-on, and they also have a prescription strength in solid form, a solid stick deodorant and an antiperspirant. So we have an AM and a PM product. The PM product is what you apply at night. And did you know that antiperspirants are supposed to be applied at night? I don't think you didn't think you did.
I'm using now an antiperspirant and I use it during the day.
You're supposed to apply an antiperspirant at night because you're less active at night. It works well when you're less active.
Okay.
So you apply at night, and then now in the morning, you apply your regular strength. Regular strength is now your deodorant. That's what you apply in the morning. Antiperspirants work well at night. So you apply, first and foremost, how do you apply an antiperspirant? How do you do it? I don't know. If I give you...
Let me say what I do, right?
Uh-huh.
So I antiperspirant and I just don't... No one taught me. I mean, when I started using this Dior or antiperspirant, actually I decided using antiperspirant recently, but I have been using Dior for the longest. And I don't know about the other people, but for me, I have been using one Dior like for the last 10 years. And then all of a sudden this year, it just didn't work. And it was so frustrating. So, and now I have another antiperspirant that I'm using. So is it normal that something that was working for you then is no longer working anymore? Nevertheless, what I do is I just take the thing I don't have, of course, it here. I just do
now
one times, yeah, that's it.
Now,
and then when I normally don't put anything. This is for me. But I only use Dior like in the morning. In the night, I really don't use because I'm sleeping. This is what I am assuming.
Now, from today going forward, I'm so sorry to tell you, you've been doing it all wrong.
Yeah, it looks like.
So what you've been doing and what the rest of us, myself included, up until last year, March, all or whatever you've described here in inaitwa dabbing. All you've been doing is just dabbing.
Yes.
Once you stroke, you're supposed to go back with your palms and rub gently in circular motion until it absorbs. It completely absorbs. If
Okay.
you dab your antiperspirant, it hasn't absorbed. So what happens when you sweat, the sweat washes away the antiperspirant. That's why, have you ever found your garment has those deodorant antiperspirant stains?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
because you dabbed. So when you sweat, the sweat washes away. So from today, going forward, please dab and apply.
I really don't like. I don't like to touch the deodorant. It feels like it's sticky.
I
But
know.
anyway, maybe I need to learn this. We're always relearning things. Say like I'm 36 now and I started using maybe Deo at the age of, I don't know, 12. And for all these many years I've been doing it incorrect.
Yeah, you're supposed to dab and apply. Let me just show you something right now. So for instance, know whether you can see that certain dry.
Yeah.
That's a prescription strength. And let me tell you, if you search for this brand, you won't find it in your local pharmacy. And then you have Dura Dry. If you can see it, Dura Dry. So I have different brands. So I'm going to show you what I have currently at the moment because some of them have sold out.
Yeah.
As I explained. So this is what you apply at night. Satin Dry, prescription strength, roll on. It's in liquid form. So for someone who has excessive sweating of the armpits, the first thing they do is make sure after showering, you apply this. And when you apply, make sure your armpits are dry. Do not apply when your armpits are sweating because now it will hinder the effectiveness of the antiperspirant. So make sure your armpits are completely dry. Then apply the clicks and do as I've explained, go back with your palms and rub in circular motion till it completely absorbs. It's the same thing as applying a moisturizer on your face. For instance, how do you apply shea butter on the face? Do you just form a pattern on the face and then you walk away? you have to massage for it to absorb. So it's the same thing. It's the same way. You're supposed to dab and then you apply. Then give it about 5 minutes to dry. Then go to sleep. When you wake up in the morning, I don't know if you can see from it has a 72-hour effectiveness.
The print is a bit small, but it's okay.
Yeah, it has a 72
yeah.
hours effectiveness, meaning you don't have to apply this Satin Dry every day. If you apply on Monday, you can apply on Wednesday. You don't have to apply.
When you shower, you will not wash it off.
It has a 72-hour effectiveness. So even when you shower, it's still there. It's still there. So you don't have to apply every day. And it's actually this particular Satin Dry is the most requested. There are different variations. There is this one is in liquid form. We have one in solid form. We have this one here, solid form, extra strength, right? Same way, you apply at night, you dab, and then you apply and you sleep. So when you wake up in the morning, you shower. This is what you apply now. AM. This is an AM deodorant and antiperspirant. You apply this in the morning. It's scented, and the scent is not overpowering. You need just something that smells good. You apply this. Now this one provides that extra layer of effectiveness. So you applied this one at night. Now you're applying this during the day for that layer of effectiveness. And it's capable of giving you you're talking about 80% success rate in sweat reduction. And the more you continue, you're moving on the scale. Sasa inaweza fika as high as 90% or even 95. You just have to be disciplined and know how to use the product. I know before there are those who have been doing it all wrong, just dab in, and then they complain, oh, this thing is not working. It depends on how you're doing it. Depends on how you apply. You know. Earlier I talked about knit 3B face saver gel. That's the knit 3B I'm talking about. And you see it's clinical. I hope you're noticing the difference, even the branding, the packaging, it's all entirely, it's different, it's different. And the active ingredient percentage. I don't want to get into all that, but what I can tell people, the active ingredient percentage, it's slightly higher than the regular products that people are using out there. For instance, for Satin Dry, this is aluminum chloride. Aluminum chloride should not go anything above 15%. If it is above 15, it's going to have that reaction, that burning sensation. And this is very synonymous with the product that I just described, Dracula, which is it's just a counterfeit of the original that's in the market. The active ingredient is actually 20%. And for most people who have used it, have complained that they've been feeling a burning sensation on their armpits, on their hands, or any other areas that they're using the brand itself. To an extent, there are those who have the brand has actually discolorized their armpits, so they have dark armpits. So before they use other products, we have to correct that, the darkening of the armpits for them not to try a new product. So they have to discontinue what they've been using. They have to use a lemon to clean up their armpits for maybe a week or two as we monitor the progress for them not to start using the antiperspirant and other stuff. So it's always be careful of the brands that you're trying. If you're buying a brand that you're not sure about it, just Google. Google. Even if you have access to it, if you have bought it, just Google. Look at the packaging, look at the brand, look at what people are saying, and you'll be surprised. So, yeah, you should be on the lookout. So the ones, for instance, this one is 12%. So it doesn't have that burning sensation. It will only have it if you're applying, if your armpits are sweating. You're not supposed to apply when you're already sweating. Apply when you're completely dry. And during the night is the same. It's the best time to apply because hauna shughuli nyingi. You're not doing stuff.
Yeah.
So it's the best time to apply. For DuraDry, this one is a solid stick. As you can see, it's not. It has that wheel cap. Yeah? I can't open this seal because if I do, there is no way we can sell it. So it's in solid form, and the active ingredient percentage, it's aluminum zirconium with another compound, so it's 20%. It has no side effects. It has no side effects. All it does, it provides an extra layer of protection. And DuraDry, they also have their AM product, their PM product, but their PM product is very expensive. That's why I always substitute with a different brand that it's affordable for them to combine. If they combine both, now they have a product that can push them for over. This one, DuraDry, can push you for about 2.5 to 3 months. Same with Satin Dry. If you're only using it, it has a 72-hour protection, meaning if you apply on Monday, you apply on Wednesday. It means it can last you for a long period of time,
Yeah.
We have talked about Knit 3B. We have Sweat Block right here for hands and feet. One product for hands and feet. Cape, they have for different focal areas. So you have a lotion for the hands, a lotion for the armpits, and one for the feet. And they also have a clinical grade. This is their next level axilla topical treatment regimen. I'm yet to introduce it in the country. I had a meeting with one of the co-founders, and I'm planning to bring it in Kenya. So watch out. be on the lookout. Same
Right.
on.
So I get because we're supposed to finish at noon and
Yes.
we're already over time, so maybe we can try to wrap up.
Okay.
Maybe now what I can ask for, I mean, just to go over for the followers who are just joining, we're discussing about excessive sweating. We already covered two types of excessive sweating and how they manifest, like what are the symptoms, and also we have looked at the treatments that are available and what should you do if you discover that you are suffering from excessive sweating or someone you know is suffering from excessive sweating. We've already covered that. And now maybe as we wind up, maybe Martin, you can say for these products, do you ship them countrywide?
Yes, we do.
How can someone get them here?
We do deliveries all over the country through parcel delivery services such as Easy Coach, Wells Fargo, and shuttle delivery services. So we have clients all over Kenya. And around Nairobi, I have a motorbike messenger that I normally use and dispatch with. So it's easy to get. All you have to do, just get in touch with me. I will take care of you.
Yeah. And for you to know is that Martin is, of course, the founder of Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya. He's not just going to prescribe to you products without doing these sweat diagnosis he's talked about. So please be aware about that, because sometimes we've also seen like people contacting us for skin issues and they immediately want solution and quick fixes. Please don't rush for quick fixes. First, try and get proper diagnosis so that you can get the treatment that really works for the sweat situation that you have, because as we have learned, there are different types of sweats and there are different treatments for each of these sweat condition. So maybe now we can move to the Q&A. I'm just going to look at what the followers are saying here. So we have Kasim who is saying hyperhidrosis sucks, and he's also asking if there is anyone else here who sweats a lot. Martin has already said he has suffered from this, and this is also what kind of, motivated as well the initiative with Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya. But I don't see if there is any other question. So what we are going to do, ladies and gentlemen, we will save this live on Awali. I hope that, unfortunately, if our live is more than 30 minutes or something like this, we are not able to share it on your Insta, but it's going to be on the Awali Insta page, and you can refer to it. And I feel like we have not exhausted this topic. I want to have you back again here, Martin, so that we can maybe now just touch on a type, like do like specific live for a type and what are the solutions for that.
Okay.
Right? Of course, now these kind of give someone who is looking into awareness or knowledge around this area, you have more of a broad spectrum of what hyperhidrosis entails or sweating related conditions, but then there is much more that we need to explore. For me, today I have learned something. I don't suffer from hyperhidrosis, but I have learned that I have not been applying my deodorant correctly. So, and actually I have learned that I have, I should be using antiperspirant at night and deo during the day. And this is something I didn't know. So I guess we are always learning. And Martin will definitely have you back on to demystify these topics further.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know if you have any parting shots. I don't see any question from our followers. But for me, really, I have taken a lot of notes and I'm going to use to prepare for another live with you. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot we should explore around this topic.
Definitely. For me, first and foremost, thank you very much for having me in your live. I was trying as much as possible not to go deep into using medical terms and other stuff. So trying to just make it easier so that people can understand. But issues of sweat are prevalent in this country. There are so many people with excessive sweating issues. I'm so thankful that HAK has provided that sigh of relief to parents. Currently, there's a parent who has 3 children, and all of them have excessive sweating. The youngest, I think, she's turning about 6 months, and it's really stressful on her. But walking on that journey, it even makes it easier. And I always pose that question: if you think it's hard now, how about before, when HAK never existed? Now there is a platform, now there is an organization that is listening to you with your excessive sweating issues. And we are ready and willing to work with you. Even with a normal acclimated person, such as yourself. You've learned something today you didn't know. And I can also find a very good antiperspirant for you that has both properties. And since the one you used for 10 years didn't work, now I'm going to look for one that
working, and I'm happy with that. But it's just to say that what I have been using was working, and then all of a sudden it didn't work. I was frustrated, but I got another one to go.
The brand.
It's a continuous battle.
It depends with the brand that you're using, and also depends with how your body is receiving the treatment that you're giving it. So yeah, we also cater for normal acclimated person with what they are looking for. And then again, we also have to do some diagnosis to see why they need it, and then we can get it for them. But yes, in terms of treatments, we have topical treatments. And may I say that these treatments you're seeing here, it's not easy to get them in the country because of them being prescription medication. You have to write a prescription, you have to connect with different doctors for them to actually even allow some of these brands in the country. So it's a journey, and we want to provide solutions that are sustainable. And we want people living with excessive sweating to know that they are not alone. The gentleman who said, who else here sweats? We are so many. We are so many. Imagine in 3 out of 2.
We need to wind down. My battery is actually dying, and I need to save. So
okay.
Yeah, we need to wind.
Thank you very much. You can get in touch with me on Instagram, or you can find us on Facebook. My contacts are on the Facebook page. You can communicate with me directly.
Yeah. And I will link his page and how you can reach them, and then just contact Marty directly if you have hyperhidrosis as a concern. Again, as I said, we will have him back to discuss further around this. So guys, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your 1 hour and 15 minutes of your time and for walking us through this topic. Thank you so much. We'll definitely have you back on Awali live stream. So guys, do have a nice Saturday and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye for now.
And welcome to the Sweatuationship.
Oh yeah, welcome to the Sweatuationship.